Hello, this is Caleb Scott, and today I'm going to be doing my presentation on the saphire warf hypothesis. So, also a disclaimer, I may pronounce a couple things wrong during this, so sorry for that if I do. The saphire warf hypothesis. This is the idea that language influences the way members of a culture see and think about the world. So it has two main components. Linguistic determinism is the first, and this means the structure of a language determines how we think. Secondly, linguistic relativity. This is because language determines our perceptions of reality. People who speak different languages see the world in different ways. So, in other words, the saphire warf hypothesis, it basically says that language plays a key role in how humans see the world around them. Linguistic determinism is basically you think in the structure of your native language, and linguistic relativity is different languages allow different speakers to express different things. So for my examples, first I'll do an example of linguistic determinism. So for this, we're going to go down to the Amazonian Paraha tribe. They have a very interesting language because it lacks small talk entirely, has a very limited spectrum of words for colors, and lacks numbers entirely, so very different from our own. So they actually had some anthropologists living down there with them for a couple years, and they noticed that the local villagers were really interested with the man and asking him when the plane would arrive, and he realized they were interested in how he knew it would arrive at a certain time. You know, think about it, a language without words for numbers. And so you'd say the plane arrives in 2 days. But what is two, you know what I mean? If you've never heard of the concept of numbers, how can you explain two? He tried this, 1, 2. That means nothing. So it's really all relative. And they actually started trying to teach them about numbers at like kind of night impromptu courses over the course of months. But when you erase your entire life without the concept of numbers, it didn't stick. They just couldn't grasp it. So, for my second example, this one will be of linguistic relativity, and that is how speakers of different languages have different worldviews due to a lack or abundance of words to describe their world. So, for this one, once again, I'm going to use the Paraha tribe. They're such an interesting example. So their colors, they actually have two words to describe colors. They have darker on one end, and they have like blood on the other end. So, imagine trying to describe a multicolored, one of those really crazy sunrises or sunsets, when your language has two words for color. It would be very difficult. And that's why this is such a great example of how linguistic relativity can play out in the real world. So the saphire warf hypothesis says something about humanity's relationship to language. And that is that it's a very crucial component of us and how we interact with the world, how we define it to ourselves and others. Words, they're important. They shape how we speak, what we can describe, and even how we think. I know personally, when I think, it tends to be in my native language of English. Another thing, each language kind of has special parts to it that another doesn't, and captures a unique perspective on, of their worldview, of the time the language was spoken. Each language has a special component to it, and I think there's a lot to learn in the differences between our languages about humanity and the history of the world and how language has related us to it over, the decades and centuries. So yeah, we should keep those languages alive, all of them. There's something to learn everywhere you live. Thank you.